So, welcome to a third episode of the Abraham Legacy podcast. My name is Nathaniel Abraham Jr., and I'm here with my sisters, Nita and Natalie. And today, well, October is National Women's Small Business Month. And in honor of the month, we're going to start asking the questions about their business, kind of what's inspired them to get started and kind of their background. And also talk about what they do and some of the things that they're involved with. It was kind of inevitable that they've end up being in business because basically going back to our grandmother, yeah, grandmother was sharecroppers, but in order to make ends meet, she had to grow and sell produce. You also had uh, to 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 work in a domestic capacity as well as cook. So it was always kind of having side hustles, as you will, that help them get over the years. Now, our mother, Jean Abraham, was a teacher, but after she retired, she put those teacher skills to use when she opened Abraham Computer Lab, and she taught classes to senior citizens, teaching them basic computing, keyboarding, and how to access the information technology field. So that's kind of background that my sisters have, and I'm going to start asking a question about their business. So well, now since you're the oldest, let me talk about what your business is and what kind of inspires you to start it and launch it.
Well, I guess I should probably start from the initial dipping my toe into the entrepreneurial pool. I got into a, what do you call it, network marketing organization called Primerica Financial Services. At the time, I was working at WIS TV full time after I graduated from University of South Carolina. And after a couple of years, I realized that my goals of what I want to make financially and what I was doing, they were not connecting. So a friend of mine who used to work at WIS TV, he stepped out and he joined Primerica Financial Services on a part-time basis, and our paths crossed later on, and I saw that he was successful, meaning I could obviously tell he had an income change with what he was doing. He was driving a BMW, and I was still driving my little car that I had when I graduated from college. And so I just said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he introduced me to Primerica Financial Services. So that was my first introduction or my first taste into entrepreneurship, which was actually, being an insurance sales, life insurance sales. And I did that for several years. And after a few years, I left WIS TV and started doing it full time because I think after about 3 years, I had replaced my income that I was working for at the TV station. I replaced it working part time. So I got an understanding that I can make more putting in less time doing something different. And sales was what I seem to have been good at. So that's what I did. So years down the road now, here into 2016, I started my own insurance agency, and I've been doing that ever since. It's on the on the property and casualty side now, but it's still insurance and it's still sales. So I seem to have found my niche with providing products and services to people that have needs in the financial industry. So it's been going well, and I've also dabbled, and along the way I've had some successes and I've had some fails. But that's the entrepreneurial journey. You continue to keep striving to learn more and do more, and to see what you're capable of doing. And then once you figure out what that is, you continue to do that.
Okay. All right, Sheila, kind of explain your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh boy. So I would say my entrepreneur journey, actually, all of us started this way, if we really be honest, which was, of course, first thing I was forced into, in a sense, was selling newspapers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, Standing out in front of Kroger, wondering when Daddy was gonna come pick me up so I can spend all my money at the arcade at Columbia Mall. That was my first kind of love of getting into doing something on my own and having that kind of control. Um, I want to say I was in the fourth grade, maybe. I might have been younger than that, but that's what I remember. I was in elementary school at the time. Fast forward, years later, I would say my second entrepreneurial role was I went to my mom one day and they was arguing with daddy about money. And I was like, well, I can sell whatever I want to sell. So when mama went to Sam's, I was like, well, I want to sell something from Sam's. So she started buying me, let me buy some candy. And with the candy and the Kool-Aid, I was the person who would make the little bags of Kool-Aid to take to school. And I would sell, I had two book bags in middle school. One was for my books and my work, and the other was for selling candy bars and packs of different variety of Kool-Aids, or I might have mixed the Kool-Aids and made some other variety or whatever. And that's kind of the second time where I got pushed into like, I like this kind of control. But then fast forward from there, going into obviously going the route you're supposed to go. Went to college looking at one thing, turned into something else, and got pushed into the finance field. And myself started wondering again about entrepreneurship after 9/11. So my first job out of college, a year and a half in, 9/11 hit, and it made me realize, like, wait a minute, this fast track of everything. I had the best job. We got to go to lunch for an hour and a half and hang out at Chili's or whatever up the street and just come back and trade for the rest of the day. All the kind of things that, you would think would be like the life was cut like that, within a couple of months after 9/11 hit. That was the first time I got laid off. And at the same time I got laid off, I had an offer letter from a company that was tripling my income. But unfortunately, they got affected by 9/11. So at that point in time, I never looked at working for someone again, the same way, or that dream of having a job, because when things happen that can't be controlled and people who have to get cut, you don't have any say so in that, no matter how much how great you perform or how you don't perform. And that was my first wake up call in reality to that. So then from there, forward somewhere down the line, end up taking over, starting to work with the family business for a short period of time, taking over the magazine, but ended up having more fights with daddy over how to run the business because I was new into entrepreneurship. Um, but then some life changes happened and moved from that to coming back around full circle to it. The next major, I say world shift with COVID. I was already at the point of wanting to go back on my own before that happened, after some health conflicts and things like that had taken place. And COVID just gave me the reason to go ahead and jump in. So from that, that's where Building Legacies was born. Learning a lot more about my background and the purpose and the why behind all the battles that my dad fought, and looking at things in the world at that point in time, what was needed, and a lot more people wanting to learn some of the things that I learned. I took it as there was a reason that I went through the things that I went through and learned the things I learned, especially in the industry, and decided it was time to bring that to the forefront. And then Building Legacies was born, teaching financial education and investing.
Okay. All right. Well, now, Betty, what are some of the things that you hope to accomplish, and what is, or in other words, what does success really look like for you?
What I wanted to accomplish. Well, I really, well, with the insurance agency, for example, since I had already been involved with Primerica for some years prior to that, going into the property and casualty side where I sell, car insurance and auto insurance, that was new for me. And as far as the products are concerned, the concept is still the same. You're providing a service for people who have a need, but success for me looked like after the 2-year mark that I was able to survive. It was a learning curve, but it was some comfort in it because I had somebody who was coaching me along the way, who had already done it, who's already been a part of the industry. So for me, for me to feel success was to know that I survived past the 2-year mark. Because a lot of businesses that get started, they don't survive past the 2-year mark. So fortunately, I was able to go past the 2-year mark. I was making money. My business had grown. People were knowing that I was in the business, and even Progressive reached out to me and offered to allow me to put up a sign outside my business, which was a shock because they had given me, when I first reached out to them, the contract with them, they gave me, certain parameters I had to meet in order for you to be able to get a sign. Well, I was just working and I was able to meet the parameters before that time frame came up. So when they reached out, I was shocked. I was like, oh, okay, I'm really doing well. So I literally have a sign up outside with Progressive logo and the name of my agency on it. So, you couldn't tell me I wasn't doing well. So for me, that was the first mark of success. Not so much that I was being, I looked at that as a marker, but the fact that somebody else recognized that I was being successful with their product and what I was doing for them. But it was also allowed me the opportunity to impact the community that I served as well. So for me, that ended up being somewhat of a marker for me that I was having an impact in the community, that I was having successes, and obviously I was making money.
Okay. Well, Tenita, same question.
I would say similar to Natalie, especially when it comes to building legacies. I didn't necessarily get into it thinking, I'm gonna leave my job. And my first initial stepping into that wasn't so much of how much money I would make and things like that off of selling the services, so much as me getting my freedom back, because I knew that I could do better if I put the same amount of effort that I had to put into that job into myself. So for that, it was sustaining a lifestyle without having to work for an employer. That was when people were going back to work and it was getting to be less of a thing. Instead of me, and then unfortunately, because a part of it was having to take care of daddy during COVID, and then at his demise, unfortunately, I had a decision then whether to just push through or go back to work for that company. And I was asked to come back to work for that company, but then I realized I was doing so well on my own. I'm gonna give you back that control. So for me, that was the aha moment that, a lot of things that were in me all along, I could do for myself just as much as I can do for a company.
Okay. Well, then Natalie mentioned mentors, but being helped from it. What are some of the best advice that you guys have received?
I remember Daddy used to say, bet on yourself. Just bet on yourself. Oftentimes we downplay uh, our gifts and talents, and we don't think that it can afford us to live the lifestyle that we want to live. Yeah, it's going to be challenges, but that was one of the things I think, that even with Daddy, with his determination, he bet on himself. when he decided he was going to sell advertising, he put the numbers. He said, now I know I can make $100 a day or $100 that week. I can't remember whatever it was, but he bet on himself. So now, as a business owner, and people in the community know that I'm a business owner, I'm a champion for, doing something on the side, because your job is not going to allow you to live the lifestyle you want to live. And if you do reach the financial mark to do that, you're not in control of it. And just like Tenita said, anything could happen. 9/11 can happen. Even with my business, once I got up and running and I was having the success I was having, the pandemic hit. So you just always have to be prepared to know that if you bet on yourself, if you build it once, you can build it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So you the same question?
That was actually mine. Like, if you've done it before, you can do it again. It's funny you just said that, because that was mine. Simply because the idea, or I would say not the idea, but I think to a lot of people, the difference between being an entrepreneur and being, let's say, an employee, is that when you kind of fail or have a setback or a mishap at work, you keep going because they might write you up, and you have a discipline plan or whatever. But in your dream role as a business owner, most people tell you to quit. And that doesn't make sense if you think about it. But the mindset is to, if you're secure, the security is there, then you put everything on the line, you put all your eggs over here. But it's not as an entrepreneur. So you try it one time, it doesn't work, you quit. When there's no such thing as a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire, whoever that has had just one role or one business and quit. Or if they had a business that failed, then they started another business, and then that failed, and they started another business until that one business, so they learned from the others and grew from that.
Yeah.
And then there they are. So that's why I was thinking that was mine. Like, there's certain businesses now that I don't do, that I've done, that I did in the last few years. Some I did well, but some things happened that said, you can't do that anymore. And so the way I look at things now is taking those failures, in a sense, to make the best out of it, take some learning experiences, and make sure I do those things now in this situation.
What would you say would be the something we're proud of, a big obstacle that you overcame, uh, and a big success that you've had?
The biggest obstacle I overcame was fear. What's between the two ears right here? Just starting out, because even when I was presented with the opportunity to open the insurance agency, I was fearful. I didn't think I could do it, but the person that was coaching me and encouraging me to do it was like, "Hey, I'm here. You can call on me. You can do this. You can do this." And it wasn't like I didn't know how to do it, because I had been in insurance before. I even worked for the gentleman for a couple of years anyway. I already knew the system, but I just didn't have the courage enough to believe initially that I could actually step out and do it on my own, put my name on it. So that was the biggest obstacle. Um, let's see, my biggest win. I think I'm in my biggest win. What I mean by that, next year will be 10 years. Uh, I've rebuilt and rebuilding, because even in business, you never stop building. But I made it through the pandemic. Business just about closed, but I kept striving. I kept going, because I knew all I had to do was duplicate what I had already learned to do before. I just had to work with the challenges of the pandemic. I was able to get business funding, which was something new for me. Um, and that sustained things for a while to kind of get to a place where it was stable, got the business stable, and I was able to go forward from there. I've been able to impact I had interns come into the business. I've been able to teach and coach them what it's like to be an entrepreneur. For those who had a desire to have a business, I was able to give them a taste of what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. And through all of that, even last year with the hurricane, the business took a hit again. Major hit, bigger than the pandemic. But once again, I didn't quit. I said, I know the system works. All you got to do is duplicate what you've already been doing, and it'll grow back. So business is turning around again, and next year it'll be 10 years. So for me, I'm actually walking out one of my biggest wins, because this is the second or third, second really major hit to the business that I've survived. Businesses continue to move. There have been customers that have been with me from day one that are still with me. So those are the big wins, and I'm still making impact with the college students, with interns. I still have an impact in the community with my clients, and I'm still here.
Still standing. Okay, Archie, the same question.
It's funny, as you were speaking, Natalie, I was thinking about like my career itself when it came to obstacles. Ironically, when it came to working, I didn't really have any obstacles. I kind of went into every job. You always said you have that one question when they asked you kind of like, what's the good, bad, thing that you have to admit or whatever. I can't remember how the question is, but everybody's had to learn how to answer that question. And for me, it was like my family will always be first. So I believe that I worked as hard as I worked to overcome everything I had to overcome. Just being a single mother and graduating and being in finance and being, able to look to my left and look to my right in this level of investment services field and know that I'm the one that you look at that is a threat in a sense. I never really had any fears when it came to working in the industry. After a while, there were some challenges. There were some, Tenita, what are you? It was some situations that were just like, okay, but you're on the phone with me, which means I had to be licensed, which means what is your question? Like I had, you had to toughen yourself up, early on in a man's world type of industry, put it that way. Um, I remember my first job, my first home that I bought. Word got out that I was buying a home, and I had been at that job for a little over a year, out of college. And a young man was like, "So you have a kid and you work here and you're buying a house? Did your daddy give you the money to buy the house?" I'm like, "No, my dad, we ain't even speaking." So I was like, no, but it's something that I wanted. I've always said if I was going to have a house. I got a kid. I want a house. So there are a lot of things that I overcame, but I didn't necessarily have a fear of per se. And I think that's what kind of led me to moving the way I did in the industry. So when I left, I didn't have as much fear for leaving. 'Cause I'd done it before. Number one. Number two, I always kind of put myself in positions and challenges in those roles to where I pushed myself to be in a position of where I was going to be tested. So when I was in that test, if I passed that test, I took on the client, for example, at one of the last jobs that everybody was kind of scared of. There was a female that was the head of that company that was, a straight to the point, no holes, whatever, and people didn't know how to react to her and approach her. And she's still a female, she's just a woman. And with that's what gave me strides in that role. So that was kind of the thing. I guess in a sense was kind of a gift in that arena. But then fast forward in my own business, um, same thing. It was a little harder when health kicked in. So I would say if I had to think of a challenge, it was the health part as they came along, getting older, and that making you sit down or that shutting you down for a little bit because you had to heal. You had to let your body catch up with where your mind and everything else was going. And so getting over that a couple of times now. Prayerfully, I continue to get over them. I won't have to. But those that I would say, if there were any challenges in the last, years of um, being in the industry and or as an entrepreneur, it would be, in my version of what Natalie was saying, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. Well, Natalie, what would you say that your entrepreneurial journey has taught you about yourself?
Wow. Well, it's kind of twofold because the previous question you asked, what was your greatest advice, right? And I said, Daddy said, bet on yourself. Well, my challenge was when it was time for me to bet on myself, I didn't have the courage to bet on myself. It took somebody else's encouragement to get me to bet on myself. So wait a minute, I don't forgot the question.
The question was, what has your entrepreneurial journey taught you about
Oh,
yourself?
what it taught me. Okay. And it's so that that's a prime example. We can have a monica or whatever that we say, but until you put it to the test, you don't know.
Yeah.
So I had to put it to the test and actually bet on myself. But that's life. That's life in itself. Whether it's business, trying to get an education, trying to get that great job, or pursuing a house like Tenita did coming right out of college. I thought for me, my generation, it wasn't so much that when we graduated from college, the next thing we were told to get is what? Get married and get a house and have 2 kids and a dog. But here her generation is her aspiration was to graduate and buy a house.
That's a finance to me, though.
Huh?
That was a lot of that was a finance to me, though. You do the numbers.
Right. But that wasn't, just in the difference in the mindsets, basically what I'm saying. That part. So it's all a mindset.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It was, like kind of going back to the last one too. In this stage of my life, in 2025, after overcoming the house situation, flood in the house and the health issues and the surgeries and all of that, then I got to the point where it was like, okay, because one, I couldn't go back to work at one point because I had the 6-month recovery from the surgery anyway. So I had already been out of even the option if I wanted to go to work, to figure out like where am I really am on the path that I'm supposed to be on. And so when it came to sitting in that for so long, finally it came to the realization to me, especially with some big battles, some big, Natalie, we had some rough conversations this year, and quite a few some other friends too, having that, like you said, having those people speak that into you, and even though you don't feel it and you want to be mad because they saying it and you're like, no, it's not me anymore. But still pushing and still being here. And even today, at some point life hits you so hard that you forget your own worth. And then, right? You forget your own worth. You forget
Yeah.
many things that you've gone through, sometimes more than once, to get where you are. And then when you're sitting in that for so long, it's just like, I can't do it anymore. Or
Yeah.
I'm not that person anymore. But like you said, it's a mindset. Like, you can't change where you came from and say that that's not you, especially when that was what you were called to do. And for me, it literally came to a point of trying to force myself to let go of the fear, declaring that I was going to fight through the fears and just jumping,
Yeah.
making a bold move of making that jump, not even just a statement, but a physical a physical movement and an investment in myself, so that knowing that that's a challenge that I have, I'm surrounded by people that are going to remind me of who I am, even if I don't want to hear it, so I can keep
Yeah.
pushing through. So,
Yeah, I remember one of those conversations. We had a big sister, little sister conversation. And I was like, look, if you're going to do it, now's the time to do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Because she was going back and forth and back and forth. And I was like, you can do it. If you're going to do it, now is the time to do it. So it's important to have those cheerleaders around you. Because oftentimes, you know, sometimes it can take somebody believing more in you than you believe in yourself.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. And so and then it's almost like you move because they believe, that gives you enough to at least get up and attempt. And then once you start doing it, you're like, okay, 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 okay.
Right.
And before you know it, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like mama or daddy, whoever taught you, or your brother. I don't remember who taught me at all of y'all. Um, like learning how to ride a bike.
Oh yeah. It was probably Nate.
Yeah, I think it was Nate.
Yeah.
I feel like you pushed me down a hill one day though, but I don't know. Anyway, um,
Uh-huh.
but
Really?
yeah, it's kind of like riding a bike. Like you get to the point where like it hurts and it's painful and I'm scared and I don't ever want to do it again. And it's like, no, like I can't do it. I failed. I fell off the bike. I scraped up my knee. I hurt my elbow, whatever the case may be. And you sit in that for a while and you have to make sure that well, let me put it this way. The blessing is that there's somebody there to say, okay, I'm gonna kiss your boo-boos and I'm gonna give you some ice cream or whatever so you can shake it off because we're gonna do it again. And you're
Yeah.
gonna get it right this time. You're gonna
Hmm.
pay attention and know not to go so fast or to, keep your head, look at where you're going, whatever the case may be, so you can, not make the same mistake again. And you can get back up and keep going.
And I also want to add too, who speaks into your life is important.
Yeah.
It's important. And oftentimes we'll want our family members to be our greatest cheerleaders. Sometimes they're not going to be your best cheerleaders. It's twofold. One, they don't want to see you fail and get hurt. And I think that's the primary um, reason why you may not get the support from them, or at least a verbal affirmation from them that, you should do it. But on the second hand, you also got to look at um, and know who you are. Just know who you are. Prime example, when I was doing Primerica, my dad was not my cheerleader. He didn't want me to do it. But on the other hand, mom was like, okay, now, all right. So, but she would always on the little quiet side. She was like, "Now, you can do it." Because when I was going for regional vice president, I didn't think I could get there. It was a challenge, but she was like, "I think you can do it." My dad was like, "Uh-uh, regional vice president. That's entrepreneurial. That's Lee Wig. You can't be like them, you know." But I accomplished it. I kept going. So you can use it as a motivator to prove the person wrong, or you can sit back and don't do anything and disappoint yourself because you didn't try.
And
Okay.
sometimes I think we have to recognize that, especially in generations before us, that some of those, what you call lack of support, is not necessarily trying to hold you back, but fear of you being hurt,
Yeah,
failure.
that's what I said. Hmm.
Um,
Didn't want to see, the disappointment and failure
from because of
for you.
their own challenges, their own
Hmm.
Yeah, especially in our culture.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I know that I learned real heavy in the last environment that I spent in for quite a bit when it came to looking at the difference in culture and how you raise your kids. On our end, it's like, oh, nope, that just means, because we ain't made to be blah, blah, blah. Where with them, it's like, oh, go do this and go do that and go do that. Okay, I pay for this. Want to shoot guns? We'll shoot guns. You want to shoot arrows? Shoot whatever. We're gonna put all this money into everything that you want to do to fill your dreams. You could be everything. And generationally, we don't that hasn't, passed
Hasn't trickled down. Yeah.
down. But over there in old neighborhood, they whatever you want to be, whatever you want to do, wherever you want to go, you want this, and it's to me, even when I speak to other people that are still like haven't had those experiences, not only with dealing with so many different mindsets and cultural mindsets being in the finance industry, um, but also seeing it differently in the environment was like, okay, so now when I have those conversations, I reflect back and say, well, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying, because we have to look at the root of the things and not take it so personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end, when you look at the root, it makes that hurt or disappointment or whatever case may be a little bit lighter because everybody's coming from their own life stories.
Right. And especially with the fact that both of us are in the financial industry, which is a male dominated industry in itself.
Because we got a very dominated dad that we had to overcome.
That part. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, explore that a little bit. How you overcome obstacles by succeeding in a male-dominated industry? Yeah, how do you overcome obstacles as a female uh, achieving success in a male-dominated industry? What are some things that you have to face and overcome?
I tunneled daddy. It was easy for me because I tunneled daddy every time. And it was funny because in addition to that, my dad was so cocky. Every now and then I'm sitting in XYZ corporation's office with security and I might be working and then everybody's like, who is that man? And it's my dad. He done got up to the 15th floor. And then like now we see where you get it from. Because how did he even get up here and you didn't know he was coming? Somehow he got through security or he taught security and they let him upstairs without a badge, without a visitor's pass, without signing nothing, whatever. Um, but
That's funny.
I can pull you probably 10 different employees from 10 different jobs, and he did it everywhere I worked. Everywhere I worked, he'll pop up in that building and be like, when you go to lunch? Or I just want to let you know, Mom outside in the car. We came up here to Charlotte to get something to eat at such and such, whatever. So, but again, it was definitely channeling daddy because I don't think I realized it so much, especially when I was younger or earlier on in the career. But when I finally had that gut punch on one of the phone calls when they were like, Tenita, it was my name that you can tell clearly kind of stuck or confused the man on the other end of the phone. That's not a first of all, you're a female.
Yeah.
And where are you from? And I would get that where are you from?
Yeah.
Are you on LinkedIn? Early LinkedIn days. Can I look you up? Those type of things. Are you licensed? Yeah, those type of things. And it was like, and then my counterparts who all were 90% next, especially in this role, 90% to my left and to my right were men. Like, did they ask y'all that? No. You know why they ask you that? So I would definitely say it was after a while of seeing that and reflecting back to my internship where there was only one female in that office. And she had the just personality and draw, and I wish I could find her today. Um, but she was a younger um woman full of an office of old men who were just trying to pass their business on to their sons at a major investment firm. And she would walk in. Some days she would come in, some days she wouldn't, some days, but every day you would see her assistant there. And she would come in, probably work 3 hours, talk a little trash, and then go play golf or go eat. And seeing that was like my other part of the confidence thing. Like I'm here because I deserve to be here. And that was really her mantra was, yeah, I'm here, but I worked my tail off to get here and I deserve to be here. And because of that, I can set my price. And that was going into the industry the same way I looked at it.
Yeah, that was the same. I mean, I never limited myself because I was a female. Even with Primerica, I mean, I had goals and in a male dominated field, of course, but I always strived. I knew I was a leader. I knew I could compete. So just did what I did.
And the easiest way to know that you can compete in the industry is going to an industry where you have to pass major certifications
Right, that part. Mm-hmm.
to stomp with the big boys or whatever they called it back then. Like,
Right.
hey, we passed the same test, so
Mm-hmm. Especially with going into the investment side of things, from the insurance part to the investment side, there are very few in our organization with in the early years that had securities licensing. And but by the time I left Primerica, my investments was well over $500,000. I had served and created a book that big, and I don't even think I was in Primerica 10 years.
Well, I'll tell you a story about Dad talking his way through anything. It reminded me of a
Yeah.
funny story when he talked his way past the Secret Service to get into a presidential ball. Yeah, and in order to get in that particular room, you had to have a donate over $100,000 to his campaign. But he just walked in right past Secret Service and said yeah, they're not. She says, and he walked in with the Ozzy Watch and said, yeah, we're the only black people in the room. And it said how they got past Secret Service. Yeah, they got off the elevator on the top floor and they were walking the room. And he just told the Secret Service agent, "Oh, don't worry, boys, he's with me," and walked on in. So yeah, but yeah, that brought back memories.
Yeah, we got to have we got a certain level of bravado from Dad. That's for certain.
Yeah.
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 I wasn't exposed to that like that. Like my biggest was actually getting into the work field. Um, especially when I got into the roles where it was security to get there. Um, but it was kind of a gift and a curse. But that's when I got to know a little bit more about kind of the power behind how you carry yourself, how you move, and knowing your worth.
Okay. All right. One other question. What are some of the things that you love about being in business? What are some things that you don't like or you find most challenging?
Challenging, staying on task,
Yeah.
because there's nobody to tell you what to do, when to do, when it's due, except for a bill. uh, I would say, yeah, definitely staying on task throughout the day, the challenging side.
I like the freedom and the control. Flexibility, like you were saying earlier, like when Tenita had her health challenges, she had to actually, sit out. But that's one of the challenges being an entrepreneur, or what we call in those spaces solopreneurs, where your business is totally on your back and you're the key person. You know how to move the bells and the whistles. You ring the bell. You you buy the bell, you ring the bell. When everything hangs on you, that's the greatest challenge. When you have those health issues and you have to actually just pull back and take that time, and you just know, I mean, the systems are in place, but oftentimes the systems can't move without your hands on it. So sometimes we'll push past our own physical health and our physical well-being to be in place to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. But there are other times when you just can't do. And there have been times when I just can't do, and I had not been able to go to work, not been able to go to the office that day. But at the end of the day, it's still my business, and it affords me the flexibility to set my own schedule, to pursue the income I want to make, um, to pursue helping as many people as I desire to help, and to pick and choose. Do I want this family as a client or not? So the flexibility and the control, or having control of more of the parameters, maybe not all of them, but more of the parameters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are some of the I won't say mentors, but some of the people that you look up to as you draw inspiration from in terms of business?
One of the things I've done as a minister or pastor, I've been asked to speak from time to time to entrepreneurs. And one of the things I like to do is to challenge them to think out the box, because we've been conditioned to stay in the box. Meaning, I wrote a book, wasn't planning to write a book, but ended up being a book. And then from that, I got an opportunity to participate and co-author in another, 2 or 3 other books. So I like to just look at what are the opportunities, what are the possibilities. And in the Bible, I'm not going to get my preacher voice on, but Jesus's disciples were entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can't get inspiration,
He technically was too.
Carpenter. And he was, because he didn't have a job.
He was a carpenter.
He was a carpenter. Okay. So if he was able to conquer the world with a handful of entrepreneurs who decided to follow him, he has the blueprint. And I talk about even the woman who went to the prophet because she had a major debt that she owed, and the debt collectors was coming to collect the debt. And she asked the prophet, "Can you help?" And he turned it back around and said, "What's in your hand?" She didn't know that what she had was enough to turn her whole financial situation around. She said, "All I got is a little bit of oil." And he said, "Okay, now take that oil and borrow some jars. You and your sons go and fill those jars up." And when she did that, she followed the prophet's directions. And because she followed the directions, God supernaturally magnified and multiplied what she had. So my encouragement to people is that you have the ability If you give it to God, whatever it is, a dream, a desire, a goal, give it to God and let him magnify it for you and see what he do with it. And then give him glory for it. Give him thanks and give him glory for it. That's my preach for today.
All right. Sheila, can you answer the question?
How did I come behind that? That's not fair. I don't really, I can't say that I really have one mentor.
Right.
I say that there are people that I look at and that have inspired me. Even currently right now, the reason why I support certain people or I might buy their course or things like that or is because they inspire me in the way they move. Not only as just people who make money in business, because I've lived my whole career talking to people who made, I've had conversations with people who had 10, $20 million in their account and been more aggravated in the, let's say, intellect of that person than I've had with somebody who had $1,000 in their retirement account. So it takes a lot to impress me in a sense. It's all about your mind and your person. And, two people, you probably know I'm going here with this one lately that have really impressed me with, especially as a leader, is because they look at the whole picture of not only the gift that they have, but the fact that they build a community around it and are lifting that community to do the same within their communities. And I've followed that track from Alicia Little, shout out to Alicia. And then the same thing with Lamar and his wife of TSP and the communities that they have built, at so many different levels, whether you're beginning a business or whether you're way up here or, the fact is they have seen the blueprint in business, taken the courses, however they did to get where they were and aligned themselves. That's why I speak a lot about alignment this year. Align themselves with people with the same vision, the same mission of taking other people there with them. And giving them, making sure they had as much of the tools that they can offer for the people around them to get to that place too. And that's what I aspire to get to. Even though I got to the point where sitting at home by myself and healing for so long, got to the point where feeling like I didn't want a people. But at the same time, deep down inside, I also know that a lot of the decisions that I've made that got me to where I am was because I was peopling so much throughout the years. So I would say people like that don't take their gifts for granted, especially when they know that this is a different, I am different in what I do and the things that I know, and sharing that is what is going to propel me forward more.
And it can come through books. I mean, like I just mentioned the Bible too, but you still have, books that people have written that have become successful in their particular industry. Everybody talks about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's one of the books people read or suggest that you read. But the key is just understanding and getting to tap their mindset for success. So I've had coaches too, but it's about tapping into their mindset and alignment with that. Because we have like I said before, we have our own limited beliefs about ourselves. But if we can, once we sit at the table, we really look at the basics. They're just performing on a different mental mindset, different level.
Okay. All right. So, well, looking forward, say 10, 50 years from now, where do you want to be?
Retired.
Yeah, well, what is it like? What does your company look like? What is after you retired? What is your end game?
It ain't gonna be 10, 15 years. How? But what it looks like for me is either passing my business along to my son or selling it. That's what it looks like for me, and living a comfortable lifestyle. You know, of course, everyone wants to be a millionaire. If I happen to make that mark with the businesses that I'm involved with, great. If not, I just know that having to travel like I want to travel, um, my family, uh, ministry, however, to be able to just do whatever, afford to do whatever. That's what retirement looks like for me. Whether it's driving my own car or having a driver drive my car, my automobile. So, I can't put a number on it. If it's a million, great. If it's not a million, it's going to be a comfortable lifestyle. I'm comfortable now.
Okay,
So that's what it looks like for me.
Shanita.
I would probably say something similar. I kind of feel like a part of that is I have now, but it's based on decisions that I'm making. Right now, my goal is to, you know, do that same thing that I just spoke about within my family. Um, and so propelling them is my purpose right now. And then as that gets more and more aligned and um I can step away more and more, then I always wanted to have a house in another country, travel, learn a lot of things, learn a lot of different cultures, especially. Um, and then see my son and my nieces and nephews all propel and happy, and when they want to go somewhere for Christmas, then I can go to their house and watch them cook for the whole family. But I don't really want for much. I don't think.
Okay. All right. Last question. What advice would you give to up and coming female entrepreneurs or people who are thinking about launching their own business?
Do it. Just do it. Yeah. I mean, do your research about how to get started in it. Um, but do it and bet on yourself.
Mhm.
You'll never know until you step out and do it. And you can do it alongside your job.
Yes.
If you start that way, get it to the point like I did with the TV station. I did it until it replaced my full-time income. By that time, you got pretty much enough experience to know that you can at least survive. So my advice is to do it. Do your research. Make sure you get your basics in place so that when you do start it out, whether you start out on the part time as a side hustle or you go for it full throttle, just do it.
Yep. I would say the same. You're already a business. Period. If
Yeah,
you're
you
a
run your.
mother, right. If you're a mother, you're a business. If you volunteer at the church in the kitchen, you're a business. If you
Mhm.
volunteer at the church as a greeter or a usher, yeah, everything that you do, the way your mind works, that we have been told was so different in negative ways in the past, is what makes you powerful today. So I would say don't even wait to try to figure out what that is after you're not working. Do it now. You have no excuse. You have with AI, every you got I can at least show you 5 different tools in 5 minutes that
Mhm.
can take whatever idea you have and monetize it. There aren't any excuses anymore. We can't speak like our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers in the past, and sit back and take that for granted. we also can't get comfortable like they did in the past because of so many changes that are in the pipeline right now. I just watched a
Yeah.
video earlier about a certain person, one of the richest people in the world, who got a hold of some documentation um, earlier this year, and basically was talking about how all the jobs are going to be replaced. And a good portion of that job, those people that are being affected with these types of replacements are African American women and or women, period, because they're roles that are typically filled by women. And so with that, the time now is to get out of that comfort zone and figure out ways to not only put yourself as more um, or less expendable, not saying that you are, but less expendable, for lack of a better word, in your current role, and find something that you like to do or would like to do and start doing it. Turn your passion into your profit.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Sure, don't you?
Passion to your profit.
You write that down. I'll be saying
Yeah, write that down. Turn your passion to your profit.
So I guess that'll be the title of your next book.
I guess so, huh?
All right. Y'all heard it here.
Don't y'all take that. It'll be on a t-shirt by the end of the week.
Yeah, do a t-shirt. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, any final thoughts you'd like to that you'd like to say for National Women's Small Business Month?
No, I would say that and I can only speak from my standpoint of view. There's so many communities out there. Social media will make you think that women are really against each other. But there's so many more communities out there that I see, no matter what field you're in. Especially getting on the AI side. Within our AI group, we we focus on target markets or niche. And we got a trucker community, we have medical, we have we have coaches of just about every industry. So if you go look, just like I found out that there were female or just Black trading groups when COVID first happened, um, which is really what empowered me to like, okay, now so many years, and people they look like me that aren't talking against trading is gambling. It's the same thing today that you can get out of social media. Once you get past all the other stuff coming that aren't there to help you, to find a community that is doing or even talking about what you would like to do and start there. Don't do it alone. That's the main thing. With all the distractions going on out here right now, the best thing you do for yourself is to get into a community to help you do it. And as entrepreneurs, especially the successful ones right now, all of them have communities.
I ditto that. And like I've been saying, just bet on yourself. We've got to just change our mindset. We can't afford to be comfortable in this environment. You cannot. You have gifts, you have talents, you have abilities that you could monetize and market. If you can get out there and sell Girl Scout cookies, guess what? You can bake your own cookies and get out there and sell cookies. And start a cooking business. It's a cookie business. If find out what it is you're good at that you probably kind of sold on the side, and that could actually be a business. It could grow into something that you never would have imagined if you just step out on faith and do it.
And doing it.
Mm-hmm. Bet on yourself. That's my advice.
Okay. Well, that's a good way to end in this episode 3 of the Abraham Legacy Podcast. And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and I'd like to stay tuned for our next episode. It was Nate Abraham Jr. With Tenita and Natalie, and we're the Abrahams, and we Look forward to coming at you next time.